The morning of what should have been my wedding day, I stood in the groom's room, adjusting my tie for the 100th time. Outside, rain pelted the windows of the Ocean View Manor like nature's own applause, or warning. I'd always been the practical one, the guy who planned contingencies for contingencies. But standing there in my rented tuxedo, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete certainty that this was right. My name is Jack Ellery, and I'm a project manager for coastal construction. I build things that last. I solve problems. I make order out of chaos. That morning, I thought I was about to build the most important thing of my life, a marriage with Sloane Carter. My phone buzzed against the mahogany dresser. I glanced at the screen, expecting maybe a sweet, "See you at the altar" message from my bride-to-be. Instead, I got 5 words that detonated my entire world. "Can't do this. Sorry, Miss S." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I read them again, and again. The period after "sorry" felt like a slap, so final, so dismissive. No explanation, no phone call, just a text message ending 3 years of my life. "Well," I said to my reflection, "guess I should have known when she started calling the florist more than me." My phone immediately started buzzing. First Haley, our wedding planner, probably wondering why the bride hadn't shown up for hair and makeup. Then Sloane's mother, Jules Carter, whose shrill voice I could practically hear through the phone without answering. Then my sister Tessa, the only family member I had left who actually gave a damn about me. I answered Tessa's call. "Jack, what's happening?" "Mom Carter is running around like a chicken with its head cut off, saying Sloane's disappeared." She texted me," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Wedding's off." "What?" "Jack, I'm so sorry. Where are you?" "Still in the groom's room, wearing this ridiculous monkey suit, and wondering if the venue has a return policy on humiliation. I'm coming to get you." "No, stay put. I need to handle this myself. But Tessa, find out where she went." I have a feeling this wasn't exactly spontaneous. 20 minutes later, after I'd texted Haley to cancel everything and ignored 17 more calls from Jules Carter, Tessa called back. "Jack, you're not going to like this. Hit me. My day can't get any worse. She's with Everett Danvers." Everett Rhett Danvers. Sloane's high school boyfriend, the golden boy who'd married money right out of college and recently gotten divorced. The same Everett who'd been sliding into Sloane's social media comments for months, always with some innocent "great photo" or "hope you're well" message that made my skin crawl. "Of course she is," I said. "Let me guess, they're at his place? His new penthouse downtown." "Jack, I saw them together yesterday at Brewster's Cafe. I thought about calling you, but I figured it was innocent. Yesterday, the day before our wedding." I felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. "Thanks for telling me, Tessa. I'll talk to you later." I hung up and walked to the window, looking out at the empty parking lot, where 200 guests should have been arriving in an hour. The rain had picked up, turning the whole scene into something from a Stephen King novel. All gray skies and broken dreams. That's when I noticed Sloane's purse sitting on the chair by the door. She'd left it behind in her rush to escape to her new life. I opened it, not sure what I was looking for, and found something that made me smile for the first time all day: a second phone. A cheap burner phone that was still logged into her messaging app. I scrolled through the messages between her and Everett, and my smile grew wider with each exchange. 3 months of planning. 3 months of "I can't wait to get away from him, and Jack is so boring, and after the wedding, we'll have access to his savings and I can leave him properly." They'd been planning this, not just the affair, but the timing. Wait until after the wedding, drain our joint accounts, then file for divorce and take half of everything I'd worked for. Except they'd gotten impatient. Sloane couldn't even wait 12 more hours to run off with her high school sweetheart. I pocketed the burner phone and walked out of the Ocean View Manor, leaving my tuxedo jacket on the chair and my old life behind. But I took the phone with me, because sometimes the best revenge starts with knowing exactly what your enemies are thinking. My apartment was a converted loft in the old textile district, exposed brick, high ceilings, and the kind of industrial charm that Sloane had always claimed to love but secretly hated. "It's so working class," she'd said once, thinking I hadn't heard her on the phone with her mother. Now, sitting at my kitchen table with Sloane's burner phone and my laptop open, I felt grateful for every working class instinct I'd ever developed. Because I was about to go to war, and I needed to be smart about it. Mason Torres, my best friend and former cop, showed up around noon with coffee and donuts. Heard about the wedding, he said, setting the bag on my table. Figured you might need some company. Actually, I need some advice. Legal advice. Mason raised an eyebrow. What kind of legal advice? I handed him the burner phone. The kind that keeps me out of prison while I systematically destroy the woman who just humiliated me in front of 200 people. He scrolled through the messages, his expression growing darker with each screen. Jack, this is, wow. She was planning to take you for everything. Read the one from last Tuesday. Words. Mason found it and read aloud. Once we're married, I'll have access to his accounts. Then we can drain everything and I'll file for divorce. He'll never see it coming because he trusts me completely. Trusting, I said, taking a sip of coffee. That was always my weakness. So what's the plan? I opened my laptop and showed him the spreadsheet I'd been working on. Phase 1, Financial Defense. I've already frozen our joint accounts and canceled the credit cards that had her name on them. The wedding deposits are being refunded to my personal account only. That's legal? Completely. We're not married, so she has no claim to my money. I called the bank this morning and explained that the wedding was canceled. They were very understanding. Mason grinned. Okay, that's cold. What's phase 2? Information warfare. See, Sloan works in public relations. Her entire career is built on managing other people's reputations. She's very good at controlling narratives and spinning stories. And she can't spin what she can't control. I turned the laptop screen toward him. I've been making a list of everyone who needs to know the truth about why our wedding was canceled. Not gossip, not rumors, just facts, backed up by screenshots of her own words. I'd spent the morning carefully crafting messages to key people in our social circle. Not everyone. That would look petty and desperate. Just the influencers, the people who other people listened to. Sloane's coworkers, who thought she was so devoted to me. Her college friends, who'd always seen her as the relationship expert. My coworkers, who'd be wondering why I was suddenly single. You're going to leak her messages? Selected excerpts. Nothing fabricated, nothing taken out of context. Just enough to show people who she really is behind all that PR polish. The messages were already written, sitting in my drafts folder. Professional, disappointed, hurt but dignified. Each one included a screenshot or two of Sloane's most damning messages. The ones where she called me boring, where she laughed about manipulating me, where she and Everett planned their timing down to the day. What about phase 3? I smiled, and I could see Mason take a step back from whatever he saw in my expression. Phase 3 is where things get creative. My phone rang. Jules Carter, Sloane's mother, calling for the 20th time that day. This time, I answered. Mrs. Carter. Jack, thank goodness. Where is Sloane? She's not answering her phone, and people are asking questions. The country club ladies are all talking, and I need to know what to tell them. Tell them the truth. Your daughter decided she'd rather be with her ex-boyfriend than marry me. She texted me this morning to cancel the wedding. Silence on the other end. Then, that's impossible. Sloane would never what? Leave me for someone with more money? Because that's exactly what she did, Mrs. Carter. She's been planning it for months. You're lying. Am I? Ask her about the burner phone she left behind. Ask her about the 3 months of messages planning how to drain my bank accounts after the wedding. Ask her why she couldn't even wait 12 more hours to run off with Everett. Another long silence. Mrs. Carter? Still there? If you're trying to ruin my daughter's reputation, I don't need to ruin it. She handled that herself. I'm just making sure people know the truth instead of whatever story she's planning to tell. I hung up and looked at Mason, who was shaking his head in admiration. Remind me never to cross you, he said. The beauty of it is that I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not lying. I'm not making things up. I'm not even being particularly mean. I'm just sharing information that people deserve to have. My laptop chimed with a new email. The first of my carefully crafted messages had gotten a response. It was from Jennifer Walsh, Sloane's closest friend from college and a notorious gossip who knew everyone in our social circle. Jack, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Sloane was capable of this. I've forwarded your message to a few people who are asking questions. Everyone's talking about it. This is going to follow her everywhere. I leaned back in my chair, feeling satisfied for the first time in 12 hours. Phase 1 complete, I said to Mason. By tonight, everyone in town will know exactly what kind of person Sloane Carter really is. And phases 2 and 3, I closed the laptop and picked up my car keys. Phase 2 starts now. Want to take a ride to Everett's building? I think it's time I introduced myself to my replacement. Everett Danvers lived in Harbor Point, the kind of glass and steel high-rise that screamed, "I have more money than taste." The building had a doorman, valet parking, and the sort of cold, modern lobby that looked like a hospital waiting room, designed by someone who'd never been sick. Mason and I sat in my truck across the street, watching the entrance. "There," Mason said, pointing. "Black BMW. That's got to be him." Everett Danvers stepped out of his car and handed the keys to the valet. He looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for entitled rich guy. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, the kind of confident stride that came from never having to worry about money. "He's shorter than I expected," I said. "They always are." We followed him as he drove to the car wash on Elm Street, one of those fancy places where they hand-dry your car and vacuum the floor mats. Everett sat in the waiting area, scrolling through his phone and occasionally glancing around like he owned the place. I walked in and sat down across from him. "Everett Danvers?" He looked up, and I saw recognition flicker in his eyes. "You must be Jack." "I must be. Nice to finally meet the man who's been planning to steal my fiancée for 3 months." His face went pale, but he tried to maintain his composure. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out the burner phone and showed him the screen. Tuesday, October 15th, 2:47 p.m. Quote, "I can't wait to see Jack's face when he realizes what's happening. He actually thinks Sloane loves him." End quote. Everett's eyes darted toward the exit, but Mason had positioned himself by the door. "Relax," I said. "I'm not here to cause a scene. I just wanted to meet the man who thinks he's won something. Look, Jack, this isn't personal. It's not personal. You spent 3 months planning to humiliate me in front of everyone I know, and it's not personal." Sloane was unhappy. "She came to me." "She came to you because you have money and I don't. Let's not pretend this is some great love story." Everett stood up, trying to use his height advantage. "Maybe if you'd been able to provide for her properly." "Provide for her?" I laughed. "Everett, I've seen the messages. I know this was about draining my bank accounts and then leaving me with nothing. You two weren't planning a romantic escape. You were planning a heist." His BMW emerged from the wash bay, gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, standing up to face him. "You think you've won because you got the girl. But what you've actually won is a woman who spent 3 months lying to someone she claimed to love, planning to steal his money, and then abandoned him via text message on their wedding day." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "So congratulations, Everett. You got exactly what you wanted. I hope you sleep well knowing that when she gets bored with you, and she will, she'll do exactly the same thing to you that she just did to me." Everett pushed past me toward his car, but I called after him. "Oh, and Everett, you might want to check your social media tonight. Seems like word is getting around about how this all went down. Your name is attached to it now." He turned back, anger flashing in his eyes. "Are you threatening me?" "Threatening you? I'm just sharing information. Public information. About public events. Isn't that what you and Sloane wanted? For everyone to know about your great romance?" Mason stepped aside as Everett stormed past him toward his car. As the BMW pulled away, Mason walked over to me. "That seemed to go well. Phase 2, complete. Now he knows I'm not going to disappear quietly. What's phase 3? I pulled out my phone and checked my messages. 17 new texts, mostly from people who'd received my information dump about Sloane. The story was spreading faster than I'd expected. "Phase 3 is where we get creative," I said, because Everett just made a mistake. "What mistake?" "He assumed I was just going to accept this and move on. He doesn't realize that I'm a project manager. I specialize in solving complex problems with multiple moving parts." We got back in my truck, and I started the engine. "Where are we going?" "To see a man about a fish." Vince Morrison worked the docks at Harbor Industrial, loading and unloading cargo ships in a job that had kept him strong and practical well into his 50s. He'd been my father's best friend before my parents passed, and he'd been looking out for me ever since. I found him on his break, sitting on a pile of rope and eating a sandwich that looked like it could feed a small family. "Jack, heard about the wedding. Sorry, son." "Thanks, Vince. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about." I explained the situation, the planning, the betrayal, the messages, everything. Vince listened without interrupting, occasionally shaking his head. So what do you need from me? Remember when we were kids and Tommy Henderson kept picking on me at school? Vince grinned. You mean before we had that little talk with Tommy behind the gymnasium? That's the one. I need to have a conversation with Everett. The kind of conversation that makes an impression. What kind of impression? The kind that makes him realize this isn't a game. That evening, we waited in the parking lot of Brewster's Cafe, where Everett apparently met his friends every Tuesday for drinks and networking. Mason had done some research. Everett was a creature of habit, always arriving at exactly 7 p.m. in his pristine BMW. He pulled up right on schedule. Vince and I approached his car as he was getting out. In the dim light of the parking lot, Vince looked exactly like what he was, a man who'd spent 30 years doing physical labor and wasn't afraid of confrontation. Everett Danvers? I said. He turned, and his face went white when he recognized me. Jack, what are you doing here? Having a conversation? This is my friend Vince. Vince stepped forward, not threatening, just present. Heard you've been causing some trouble for Jack here. Look, I don't want any problems, neither do I said. That's why we're going to clear some things up. See, I've been thinking about our conversation this afternoon, and I realized you might have gotten the wrong impression. What impression? That I'm just going to let this slide. That I'm going to quietly disappear while you and Sloane ride off into the sunset with my money. Everett glanced around the parking lot, probably looking for help. But it was just the three of us. I told you, it's not about money. Everything's about money, Everett, especially for people like you. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot. This is from your girlfriend's messages. Quote, once I get half of Jack's savings in the divorce, we can buy that house in Portland you showed me. End quote. Vince whistled low. That's cold, son. Real cold. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to go in there and have your drinks with your friends. And when they ask you about the woman you're seeing, you're going to tell them the truth, that she left her fiancé on their wedding day to be with you. And if I don't, I smiled. Then I'll tell them myself. See, the thing about small towns, Everett, is that everyone knows everyone, and everyone talks. Your business associates, your country club friends, your ex-wife's family. They're all going to hear this story eventually. You're trying to destroy my reputation. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm just making sure people know what kind of man you are. The kind who helps a woman plan to steal from her fiancé. The kind who thinks it's funny to humiliate someone on their wedding day. Vince cracked his knuckles, a sound like small firecrackers going off. Jack's being real reasonable about this, if you ask me. Everett looked between us, clearly calculating his options. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could just take what you wanted without any pushback. You were wrong. I stepped closer, close enough that he had to look up at me. This isn't over, Everett. Every time you look at Sloane, I want you to remember that she's capable of doing to you exactly what she did to me. Every time you trust her with something important, I want you to wonder if she's already planning your replacement. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. We left him standing in the parking lot, probably wondering if he should still go in for drinks or just go home and reconsider his life choices. Think that got through to him? Vince asked as we walked back to my truck. Oh, it got through, but it's not going to stop him. Guys like Everett don't back down. They double down. So what's next? I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Sloane. Finally ready to talk now that her perfect plan had gone sideways. Next, I wait for them to make their move. Because they will. And when they do, I'll be ready. Mridjo Fig. Sloane finally called me the next morning, just as I was getting ready for work. Jack, we need to talk. Do we? Because yesterday you seemed pretty clear about where things stood. Don't be like this. I know you're hurt, but... Hurt? Sloane, I'm not hurt. I'm impressed. 3 months of planning, fake messages about being excited for the wedding, even fake tears when we were picking out rings. That takes real commitment to deception, silence on the other end. I know about the burner phone, I continued. I know about the plan to drain my accounts after the wedding. I know about the house in Portland you and Everett were going to buy with my money. Mridjiak, I can explain. No need. I've already explained it to everyone else. What do you mean? I mean that by now, pretty much everyone we know has seen screenshots of your messages. Your coworkers, your friends, your mother's bridge club, they all know exactly what kind of person you are. I could hear her breathing getting faster, the way it did when she was about to lose her temper. You had no right. I had every right. They were my messages too, Sloan. My wedding you canceled. My money you were planning to steal. My life you decided to destroy for your own entertainment. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. But here's the thing. I'm not done yet. I hung up and headed to work, feeling better than I had in months. At Coastal Construction, I found my boss, Mike Patterson, waiting in my office. Jack, I heard about the wedding. I'm sorry. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Actually, that's not why I'm here. We got a call this morning from someone claiming you've been harassing them, making threats, following them around. I sat down at my desk, not surprised. Let me guess. Everett Danvers? You know him? He's the guy my ex-fiancée left me for. And I haven't harassed anyone, Mike. I had one conversation with him at a car wash and another in a parking lot, both in public places, both completely civil. Mike looked relieved. That's what I figured. The guy sounded like he was trying to cause trouble for you. He is. But Mike, I need you to know, this might get messy for a while. They're going to try to make me look like the bad guy. Are you the bad guy? No. But I'm not just rolling over and taking it either. Mike nodded. Good. I hate guys who can't fight their own battles. Just keep it legal, okay? Always do. After Mike left, I called Tessa. How's the information campaign going? I asked. Better than you probably hoped. Jennifer Walsh posted about it on her blog this morning. Apparently Sloan tried to call her and spin some story about you being controlling and possessive, but Jennifer had already seen the screenshots. What did she post? Basically the whole truth. The planning, the messages, the wedding day text. She called it the anatomy of a modern betrayal, and it's been shared about 200 times already. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Jennifer Walsh's blog was required reading for every gossip in town. There's more, Tessa continued. Mom Carter called this morning, crying. Apparently the ladies at the country club are not being very understanding about Sloane's behavior. Poor Jules. She spent so much time building that perfect family image. Jack, are you sure you want to keep pushing this? I mean, you've made your point. Have I? Because Everett called my boss this morning, trying to get me fired. What? They're escalating, Tessa. Which means I need to escalate too. That afternoon, I drove to Sloane's office building. She worked for Harbor Communications, a mid-sized PR firm that handled accounts for local businesses and politicians. I'd been there dozens of times for company parties and client events. I walked into the lobby and asked for Amanda Price, the managing partner. Jack, I heard about the wedding. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Amanda. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I showed her the messages on the burner phone, particularly the ones where Sloane talked about using her PR skills to manage Jack's reputation after the divorce and make sure everyone saw her as the victim. Amanda's expression grew darker as she read. She was planning to use company resources for personal reputation management? It looks that way. She also mentions using client contact lists to spread her version of events. That's a violation of company policy, and possibly illegal, depending on what she planned to do with those contacts. I thought you should know. I'm not trying to get her in trouble, but if she's planning to use Harbor Communications to attack me, I need to protect myself. Amanda nodded. I'll handle this internally. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. As I left the building, I saw Sloane's car pulling into the parking lot. She got out and stormed toward me. What are you doing here? Having a conversation with your boss. Turns out she's very interested in how you were planning to use company resources for personal vendettas. Sloane's face went white. You're trying to get me fired. I'm protecting myself. You want to destroy my reputation and my career? Fine. But I'm not going down without a fight. This is insane, Jack. We used to love each other. No, Sloane. I used to love you. You used to see me as a convenient source of financial security. There's a difference. I got in my truck and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot looking lost and angry. My phone rang as I was driving home. Mason, you need to be careful, he said without preamble. Why? Because Everett just hired a private investigator. Guy named Thompson, used to be a cop before he went private. He's good, and he's expensive. What's he investigating? You. Looking for anything they can use against you. Unpaid tickets, tax problems, anything that makes you look bad. I thought about this for a moment. Let him look. I've got nothing to hide. That's not the point. The point is they're not backing down. They're doubling down, just like you said they would. Good. That means they're scared. It also means they're dangerous. Scared people do stupid things. So do angry people, Mason. And I'm a lot angrier than I am scared. The warehouse district at night looked like something from a noir film. All shadows and rain-slicked streets, empty buildings that had once housed thriving businesses, now standing like tombstones for the city's industrial past. I'd chosen the old Riverside warehouse for our final confrontation because it was dramatic, isolated, and had the kind of acoustics that would make every word echo. I'd sent the message to both Sloan and Everett that afternoon. Meet me at Riverside Warehouse tonight at 9 p.m. Time to finish this. Mason thought I was crazy. This feels like a trap, Jack. It is a trap. My trap. I'd spent the week since our parking lot conversation preparing for this moment. The private investigator Everett hired had found nothing because there was nothing to find. Meanwhile, Sloan had been suspended from her job pending an internal investigation into her planned misuse of company resources. The social media campaign had destroyed her reputation so thoroughly that she'd been forced to deactivate all her accounts. But they weren't finished. According to my sources, and in a small town, there were always sources, they were planning one final move, a last-ditch effort to paint me as an unstable, possibly dangerous ex-fiancé who was stalking and harassing them. So I decided to give them exactly what they wanted, a confrontation. I arrived at the warehouse early and set up my equipment. A borrowed projector, connected to my laptop, aimed at the large white wall facing the entrance. Speakers connected to my phone. And in the shadows near the back exit, Vince and Mason, just in case things got out of hand. Sloan arrived first, looking nervous and overdressed for a warehouse meeting. She was wearing the kind of outfit she'd wear to impress a client. Professional, expensive, armor disguised as fashion. Jack? What is this about? Patience. We're waiting for your boyfriend. Everett showed up 5 minutes later, and I could see he'd brought backup. A large man in a cheap suit who was probably Thompson, the private investigator. Gentlemen, lady, I said, stepping into the light. Thank you for coming. Jack, this has gone far enough, Sloan said. You've ruined my career, destroyed my reputation, turned everyone against me. What more do you want? I want you to understand something, I said, pressing a button on my laptop. The projector came to life, displaying the first screenshot on the warehouse wall, Sloan's message about draining my bank accounts. For 3 months, you planned to humiliate me, steal from me, and destroy my life. You thought I was too trusting, too naive, too boring to fight back. I clicked to the next screenshot, Everett's message about how funny it would be to see my face when I realized what was happening. You were wrong. This is harassment, Everett said, gesturing to his hired muscle. Thompson, are you getting this? Oh, I hope he is, I said, because I want everyone to see this. I clicked again, and a new image appeared. Not a screenshot this time, but a photograph of Everett and Sloan at a restaurant, clearly taken weeks before our wedding was supposed to happen. See, the thing about hiring a private investigator is that it works both ways. While Thompson was looking into my background, I hired someone to look into yours. The next image showed Everett's financial records, public information obtained legally, showing massive debts and a recent bankruptcy filing. Turns out Everett isn't quite the wealthy catch you thought he was, Sloan. His divorce left him broke, his business is failing, and he's about 6 months away from losing that fancy apartment. Sloan turned to look at Everett, who was staring at the wall in horror. You told me you were successful. I am successful. This is just a temporary setback. A temporary setback, I laughed. Everett, you owe more money than I make in 2 years. You were planning to use Sloan to get access to my savings because you're desperate. The next slide showed more financial records, and Sloan's face went pale as she realized the truth. So congratulations, I continued. You both got exactly what you deserved. Sloan, you got a man who's just as willing to lie and manipulate as you are. Everett, you got a woman who will abandon you the moment someone better comes along. This is illegal, Everett shouted. You can't what? Tell the truth? Share public records? Everything on this wall is either your own words or publicly available information. I clicked to the final slide, a group photo from our engagement party, showing Sloan and me surrounded by friends and family, everyone smiling and happy. This is what you destroyed, I said quietly. Not just my trust, not just my money, but the belief that people can actually love each other without ulterior motives. Sloan was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage and frustration. You've ruined everything, she screamed. My job, My friends, my family. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I just made sure people knew the truth about what you did. Everett stepped forward, probably trying to look threatening. But Vince emerged from the shadows, and the private investigator suddenly decided he wasn't being paid enough for physical confrontations. This ends now, Everett said. We're leaving town. You win. I already won, I said. The moment you two decided to betray me, you lost everything that mattered. Your reputations, your relationships, your futures, all gone because you couldn't resist the temptation to hurt someone who trusted you. I packed up my equipment while they stood there, probably trying to figure out what to do next. Oh, and one more thing, I said as I headed for the exit. Thompson, the private investigator, he's been recording this whole conversation. Not for you, for me. Insurance, in case you try to claim I threatened you. I walked out of the warehouse and into the rain, leaving them to contemplate the wreckage of their own making. Mason and Vince followed me out. So what now? Mason asked. Now I go home, get a good night's sleep, and tomorrow I start building something new. Think they'll actually leave town? I looked back at the warehouse, where I could see them through the windows, probably arguing about whose fault this all was. Doesn't matter, I said. They're finished here either way. Some wounds you don't heal from. Some you just walk away with. This was mine. I got in my truck and drove home through the rain, feeling lighter than I had in months. Behind me, the warehouse grew smaller in my rearview mirror, until it disappeared entirely, taking the last chapter of my old life with it. November 17th, 2025, 13 hours, 34 minutes, and 3 seconds.